because he provided me with how he would like to be introduced. Okay, so Brian, the show is yours. And so Brian is America's breakthrough coach. He has delivered over 1,800 presentations around the world for the last 30 years. Wow.
Started when I was 7.
Huh?
Started when I was 7.
Oh, okay. Okay, when you're 7. And the author of 15 books, including the bestseller Beyond Success, and his brand new, The ROI of Kindness. Yes, that was rated #1 for over 40 speakers and 4 consecutive Inc. magazine international conferences with degrees from Stanford University, UCLA. Brian has appeared in Good Morning America, CNN, and now at the Kindness Conference on ROI of Kindness. Brian was recently honored as one of the top 10 interactive keynote speakers in North America and one of the top 60 motivational speakers in the world. So please welcome Brian Biro.
It's Biro. I told you it's a hard
Biro, sorry.
Everybody take a nice deep breath in and let it all the way out.
Okay.
Yes, center and come together. I am so excited and honored and delighted to be a little part of this Kindness Conference, because one thing that's been consistent through every speaker is we all agree that never in our history has kindness been more important, has been more valuable, all right, and has been maybe more misunderstood. And it's time to really create an understanding of it. So I'm pumped to be with you. And if please get in the game. I encourage you to put your visual on so I can see your face. It just adds the sense that we're together. Use the chat as much as you want to ask questions. I probably won't react to the chat at all through the course of what I'm doing, but I will respond to every question that you ask when we're done.
I'll do the chat.
All right. So I really want this time we spend together today to be truly memorable, because it's in the moments of that things stick to us that we really make progress. So I want it to be memorable. I want it to be fun, because one of the things we miss out and when we think about kindness is how much fun it is and how much fun and kindness are intertwined. And as much as we need kindness, we need fun right now. Kimberly was a great example, bringing a whole lot of fun to us. But most of all, what I want from our time together is I want it to be valuable. I want it to serve you, not just in your work, though this is kindness at work, but well beyond that, into your family, into your health, into every relationship, and into your spirit. So buckle up and get ready. By the time we finish, my sincere vision is that you're going to have a whole different perspective of what kindness is in business and how it affects your business and your career, whether you're an individual entrepreneur or part of a big corporation. And most of all, by the time we finish, I want you to have a fresh way of seeing yourself as a kind of kindness catalyst. So I'm pumped to get ready. But before we get going, I got to do the most important thing of all. It truly is the foundation of kindness, as we just learned from Kimberly. And that is simply to say thank you. This conference was created by somebody who did it because she loves people, loves trying to make the world a better place, and wants to really catalyze kindness in a big way. So I really want to say, I know she can't hear us all, and keep your mutes on so we don't make a whole bunch of noise, but she can see your hands. So everybody, let's give Mari-Lyn a huge hand right now. A real hand. Come on, a real hand. Get them going. Get the blood moving. Get your energy up. And she would love any kinds of comments that you send to her, because she really doesn't do it for the feedback. She doesn't do it for what she can get. She does it for what she can give, but she will appreciate the fact that months and months of work were appreciated by the people who attended. So thank you. And to honor Mari-Lyn and to honor all of you for being here, I'm going to make you one promise. It's a promise that if we make about delivering kindness, could change the world. And that promise is simply, I'm going to give you everything I've got. Mm-hmm. I am the luckiest guy on the face of this earth. I live in beautiful Asheville, North Carolina. Y'all come and see me sometime. I have an amazing wife, 2 beautiful daughters, a son-in-law I consider a son. And let's get to the 2 coolest of all right now. My grandbabies, Augie and Quinny. Yes, they are the cutest kids in North America. I have absolutely no unconscious bias, Sajal. All right. So I have a family I couldn't love more. And I'm doing the work I was put on this earth to do. My time with you all today is not my job. It is my joy. So I'm going to give you absolutely everything I've got. All right. And so let's jump right in. And we're going to find that a lot of the other speakers, the things we talked about, are going to really coordinate. We're going to start by looking at a study that's done every year by the Gallup poll people. Kimberly knows a lot about it. And it's a study that's called the State of the American Workforce. And what it's about is measuring the level of engagement of American employees, American workers of all levels and all in every industry, from healthcare to high tech to financial, from small companies to big companies. So they've done this for many years. And I'm going to talk about it for a second because we're going to find out that the single most important ingredient in building engagement is actually kindness. But as I talk about it, I want you to do a couple things. Number one, think about your own organization, whether it's just you or a bigger organization and where you line up on it. Think about the organizations, the companies that you truly admire, you love to work with. And think about the ones you really don't admire and you don't like to work with. And so I'm going to give you kind of the average over many years. But as I do that, I want you to understand that this study has come out, it's not political, it comes out very similar every year. And it breaks into three distinct categories. The first category of American employees are what are called the fully engaged. These are the ones you love to see walk in the door. They just immediately seem to change that energy. And fully engaged employees have a mantra. Hopefully you hear it all around you all the time, including in your own self-talk. And the mantra of fully engaged employees is, oh yeah. Whatever you throw at them, it's, oh yeah. You know, we got a lot of changes coming. Oh yeah. Things could be tough around here. Oh yeah. What percentage, and you can put this in the chat if you want, or just kind of mouth it, I'll try to read your lips, but I've asked it at a lot of events, so I have a guess of what you'll say. What percentage of the 100% of total employees across every industry would you say are, oh yeah? What do you think? Now, when I've asked that all around the country and around the world, I usually hear 1%, 3%, 4%, and I would say the same thing, pessimistic, all right? 24% are, oh yeah. Now, the second group of employees, and it breaks so cleanly into this year after year, are what are called the somewhat engaged. Now, as soon as I hear they're somewhat engaged, that means they're somewhat not engaged. All right. And somewhat engaged employees have a mantra too. I bet you've heard this one. All right. And their mantra is, okay, things around here are going to be great. Okay. Things around here are going to be terrible. Okay. All right. What percentage of the 100% of total employees across every industry would you say are okay? And I bet I got a better guess. Usually I hear people say something like 50%. That's very accurate. 49%. 49% are just okay. Now, some of you are mathematical wizards. Cecilia has got a background in high tech, and so does Kimberly. You know that there are 27% less left. And that group are what are called the actively disengaged. Now, I have a different name for them. It's not a pleasant name, but it's fairly accurate. It's called cancer. All right. And actively disengaged employees do have a mantra, one I hope you never hear. And their mantra is, oh no, we got some great new initiatives coming. Oh no, we're really going to make a great strides this year with all these great changes. Oh no, 27% are oh no. But here's what matters. That means that 76% of the American workforce across all industries, and I would say it's fairly similar in other countries, not all, definitely, are either just okay or oh no. How can you turn that upside down? Because engagement is the single biggest indicator of long-term success in every single dimension. How do you turn it upside down? In a word, we're going to find out, it's kindness. It's in creating a kindness culture. All right. And so how do you begin that breakthrough? Well, all breakthroughs start the same way. So we're going to start it the same way. All breakthroughs start with vision. So we're going to start with vision. All right. And I introduced you to this guy a few minutes ago, but you get to look at him again. All right. This guy is my grandson, Augie. And I got to tell you, he always lives with that smile on his face. He is the happiest little guy you ever saw. He is also Evel Knievel on that little tricycle. I mean, he goes so fast with those little legs. They're just turning. He does these tight turns. He is so good, even though he's only 4 years old, that in a very short time, he is going to get a two-wheeler bike. All right, at 4 years old. And the big day is going to come. You all had it long ago. His mommy and daddy are going to be out there with him. He's going to get up on that two-wheeler. Hands get on the handlebars. First thing he's got to do, got to put his tongue out for balance. He's got that tongue out for balance. He's on that. He's got little feet on those pedals. Mommy and daddy are pushing him from behind, and he's pedaling like crazy, and he's wobbling, and they let him go, and he's doing it. He's riding that bike, boppity, boppity, bop, tongue out. All right, way to go, Augie. All right. Unfortunately, right in front of him on the sidewalk is a great big rock. What happens? What does Augie look at? The rock. What happens next? Wham! He hits that rock. He falls over. He scrapes his elbow. He walks by his daddy like he's cool. He goes to the mom and goes, "I'm gonna die, Mom." All right. So now it's the same little boy. 2 weeks later, same bike, no tongue anymore. Doesn't need it anymore. He's got this thing down. Whipping down the same sidewalk. Boppity, 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 bop. Bigger rock. What happens now? He goes around it. What goes around it first? Not his bike, his eyes, his vision. He sees his way around the rock. All right. What Augie has taught us is the foundation of the way we can build a kindness culture, the way that we can transform an organization. And it's a simple principle from which everything else is built, because everything is built from the start. Every breakthrough is built from vision. And what it says is, what Augie taught us is that what you focus on is what you create. All right. What you focus on is what you create. Now, notice what it does not say. It doesn't say what you focus on is what you get. Because until you get on the bike, you get Zippo. You cannot win the game unless you get in the game. But once you're on that bike, what you focus on is what you create. Now, this has sometimes been called the law of attraction, but I'm just a real simple thinker. Since what you focus on is what you create, I have a big question for you. What are you focusing on? What are you focusing on? How many of us focus more on the rock than the way around it? How many of us focus more on worrying about what will go wrong than creating what will go right? How many of us focus in the world of feedback more on weaknesses than on strengths? Either way, what you focus on is what you create. So if you want to be someone who begins to transform your organization, the foundational key is to begin to live this principle in a very rich way. And that is to develop a brand new way of looking at kindness, a whole new kind of vision for kindness. Because here's the challenge, and it's been touched on and through a lot of the speakers, Chris earlier today. Many of us, every one of us likes kindness. We want kindness. We want to be treated kindly. We want to deliver kindness. But many of us have been conditioned by being hit over the head with a rock called kindness is weak. All right. In business, it doesn't work. Kindness is soft. It doesn't work. You got to be tough. It's dog eat dog. We're going to prove in this talk that not only is that old thinking and old conditioning, it is dead 180-degree wrong thinking. And it does not serve you to have that old kind of way of looking at it. So how do you begin to transform your company, yourself, your career, by understanding that what you focus on is what you create? Well, the starting place is to create a new vision. And I call that vision a kindness value proposition, a KVP. Everybody say those 3 letters. KVP. A kindness value proposition, in a very simple way, is a way of describing your vision in the way that you choose to deliver kindness. That's what a kindness value proposition is. It's crystallizing the way that you as an organization are going to deliver kindness. And what we're going to find is that when you start with a KVP, and here's the first thing, many companies do not have one. All right. They have not understood that what you focus on is what you create. And if you focus on nothing, you're going to create nothing. You have to start by focusing on what you want. All right. But companies that understand this rock in the 3 areas that will determine the future of your business, whether it's you or a giant corporation. And the 3 areas that matter in our lives in terms of our business lives are people, performance, and brand strength. All right. We'll start with people, because every organization is a people company. It's the relationships you build. It's how you grow. All right. And so let's start by looking at organizations that understand the power of a KVP, a new destination around the rock, to build incredible success. So it's really helpful to start thinking about the organizations and industries that have the biggest challenge in that area. And one area you're all familiar with, and that you know that the people part is a big challenge, especially something called turnover, is called quick service foods, also known as fast foods. We know there's a lot of turnover in that industry. But one company is famous for their KVP. Remember, a KVP, kindness value proposition, how they deliver kindness. And that company is Chick-fil-A. Now, Chick-fil-A has a very simple kindness value proposition. And it has nothing to do with chicken. Here's what it says. It says, a pleasure to serve. Their KVP is a pleasure to serve. All right. And the stories of kindness in delivering a pleasure to serve at Chick-fil-A are endless. You all know that if you show up and it's raining, somebody's going to be out there with an umbrella to walk you in and walk you out. Why? Because they have a pleasure to serve. That's how they deliver kindness. Another example, a regular customer comes through and a cashier hands them their sandwich, but that person's mind is somewhere else. They drive off. They forget their $3.42 worth of change. Any other organization that has not defined where they're going with a KVP, what happens to that $3.42? Either goes back in the till or maybe in the pocket for a little bit of sandwich later on. Not in an organization that has focused on everything they do, the recognition, their training, their organization, the stories they want to create on a pleasure to serve. What happens there is that $3.42 goes in an envelope with the name of that kind of regular customer. 3 days later, same customer comes through. Before they get their chicken, they get an envelope with $3.42. Think about the reaction. How do I know that story? Because that story's been told 7,000 times in the last week, because they understand that kindness rocks. Now, let's get specific then. What would you guess? And this is really fun for me right now, so you can put this in the chat. The quick service food industry, fast food, what would you guess is the average annual turnover rate? So what is the average turnover in terms of percentage? What is the average annual turnover in quick service foods? So you can write it down, just kind of guess. All right. I've asked that a lot. And when I ask it in a seminar, people are pretty, they're pretty strong about it. They know there's a lot of turnover. I hear 70%, 80%, even 90%. The average annual turnover in the quick service food industry is 170%. They turn over almost every 6 months. They have to replace the full quadrant of their people. 170%. What would you guess is the annual turnover rate at Chick-fil-A that uses a KVP as their direction around the rock? What would you guess? Go ahead and write it down. 14%. 14% versus 170%. And when you understand that it's been calculated, it costs just about $6,000 every time you have to rehire, retrain a new person at Chick-fil-A, that is $300 million every year to the bottom line that companies that are average don't get the benefit of. So when it comes to people, kindness rocks. And that's just in terms, that doesn't talk about the level of service that's elevated by people who have a little bit of experience. So when it comes to people, kindness rocks. Second area, let's talk about performance. I'll give you another example to throw out that old rock and find a new way around it. Another industry that I've spoken for many times is the airline industry. And one company has done an incredible job over the years. They're kind of the great story in the airline industry. And they have a KVP, and it's an unusual one because it brings into that combination we talked about at the beginning of this talk called kindness and fun. And this company has absolutely the darling of the industry. I've had the pleasure of speaking with them for them a couple times. Who are they? Southwest Airlines. Southwest Airlines. All right. Does Southwest Airlines have smarter people than the other airlines? Yes, they do. They don't charge you for bags. They're very smart. No, they're not smarter. If you put them on an intelligence test, they come out about the same. But they have fun, and more importantly, they have combined that fun with kindness into their KVP. Remember, a KVP is a crystallized statement of the way we deliver kindness. And at Southwest, it's real simple. It says, having fun and connecting people. Having fun and connecting people. That's what they do. It's not about flying. It's about having fun and connecting people. And Southwest Airlines, if you've ever flown them, you know they live that KVP. I mean, they're out there in the gate throwing balls around, Nerf balls, and having fun with you. Their founder and their longtime CEO, who passed away in 2019, was a man named Herb Kelleher. He had to have somebody behind him, with him all the time, because he wanted to stop and connect with his people, all right? And he would miss all these important meetings, miss flights, all right, because he really loved his people. In fact, at Southwest Airlines, their home base is called Love Field, not by mistake. All right. They understand that when you have fun and you connect people, that KVP is going to drive performance. So let's have some fun with some flight numbers of how that performance makes a difference. All right. Here are your flight numbers at Southwest Airlines: 0, 3, 46, and 1. 0, 3, 46, and 1. All right, with that KVP, having fun and connecting people, the 0 represents 0 layoffs or wage reductions in their history. 0. Think about all that's happened over those years. All right, so 0 wage reductions and zero layoffs at Southwest Airlines in their 47-year history. All right, 3 is actually not accurate. It's under 3. That's their annual turnover. That's a little less than 3% annual turnover at Southwest Airlines. The industry average is close to 30%. And when you think about how much more costly it is to hire and rehire in that industry, that's a huge number that comes because that KVP. 46 consecutive years of profit at Southwest Airlines. Now, think about those 46 years. Companies that you and I grew up as thinking they were the unstoppable, Pan Am, all right, TWA, they're gone. Think about what's happened in our world, recessions. Think about 9/11. Through all of that, no matter what was going on, Southwest Airlines still was profitable. And the last number was 1. So 0, 3, 46, and 1. 1 represents they are the largest domestic American airline, a company that when they started out, people laughed at them. So when it comes to performance, kindness rocks, but you have to have that new vision around the rock. All right. And the third area we talked about, all right, that is so vital to your long-term engagement, all right, is called brand strength. Now, brand strength means that people think of you top of mind. It means that you are going to generate incredible word of mouth. And that's the best kind. I don't care what you're with social media, anything. The best kind of building is through word of mouth. And I've had the joy and privilege of speaking more than 65 times for a company that has a remarkable brand. And it's in a different industry. It's the healthcare industry. And that company is called Kaiser Permanente. Now, Kaiser Permanente also has a KVP, and it's called Thrive with Patient Care. Thrive with Patient Care. Now, I got to tell you, when I was at Kaiser Permanente is rated at the absolute top of their field. They win tons of awards for quality. They have 14 million members. But when I was growing up in Southern California, Kaiser Permanente was a joke. I used to say things like, you go into Kaiser, but you don't come out. All right. Today, they're at the top in terms of that brand. How did they do that? And that same word, kindness. They built a KVP that transformed them. All right, which is thriving on patient care. And the first thing they did was define patient differently than everybody else. The patient isn't just the person getting the treatment. The patient is their family, their children, their friend who brought them in. And the care is not just the moment of treatment. It's how you feel when you walk in. It's how you feel when you walk out. It's how you're treated every step of the way. And I've spoken more than 65 times for Kaiser Permanente. Every single event, that's what they focus on. I don't hear stuff about clinical stuff because truthfully, we expect clinical excellence from our healthcare. It's really about the human care. So I was pulled into a large medical center in Southern California for Kaiser Permanente because they also measure their patient care meticulously. And at Kaiser Permanente, you have to have 85 or above to be at their standards. And their standards are incredibly tough. Well, they brought me in because one functional group at this medical center just could not get over 60, and that was not cutting it. For 2 years, they had stayed at 60 or less. And that functional area was called MCH. Anybody know what that is? MCH? Mother-child healthcare. Mother-child healthcare, which shocked me because that's birth and babies. That should be a good part of a hospital. So the startup that when I was brought in, the first thing I did, we have 2 ears, 1 mouth, was I asked questions. I listened. I did 60 interviews with a cross section of that team, the physicians, the nurses from the 3 functional areas, which are labor and delivery, postpartum, and what's called NICU, neo-intensive care. I asked the nurses from the night shift, the day shift, asked the technicians, the receptionists, and I just asked them, what do you do great? What do you think you could do better? What do you think is behind those scores? Because those scores are clear for everyone to see, very transparent. And from that, it became clear to me that their KVP for that area had become a little stale. It needed revitalization. It needed further definition. And from those interviews, we came up with a way to define their KVP to thrive with patient care by talking about what we call the 4 W's. All right. And the first W, and these will apply to your team right now, whether it's you or a big company. They've worked there, they'll work for you. The first W is called welcome. They found that, hey, there's places where our people, where patients coming in feel more like a thing than a person. They are a name on an agenda, or a name on a schedule. All right. They are a dosage that they're supposed to receive. All right. And so they felt, wow, we could do better in that area of welcome. All of us can make a difference there. The second W is called warmth. Now, that one seems pretty dang obvious. All right. Warmth and kindness seem to be synonyms. But here's the secret, and this is the one above all about kindness to have it really work. It's being kind to unkind people. It's being kind and warm when people are scared, exhausted, frightened, worried, uncertain. Sound familiar in 2020? All right, that's where kindness works. It is easy to be kind to kind people, but real kindness is not reactive. Real kindness must be proactive. And they've opened up and realized there's times when somebody kind of reaches out and punches us a little bit that we punch back instead of treating them with kindness. So the second W is warmth, welcome and warmth. The third W was by far the most important, and I would bet it is in your organization. And the third W is just two letters. It's we, W-E, we. What they found from those interviews as I talked to them was that we are aware of being welcoming and warm to our patients, but we're not very welcoming and warm to each other. And how are you going to extend that real authentic feeling if you're not having it among yourselves? That they siloed off, that labor and delivery was siloed from postpartum. They both felt separate from NICU. So I asked them a great question to ask in your team, all right, to ask in your family, ask in your life. I said, who's most important? And wham, as soon as you get asked that question, the answer is obviously clear. Everyone's important. At each point of contact, everyone is vitally important. We're all important. Labor and delivery brings the miracle into the world. Postpartum teaches families how to be families, how to take care of the miracle. And NICU is there to take care of that child when it's in crisis. Who's most important? Everyone's important. So welcome, warmth, and we. And if you use those three, if you focus on those three, they realized that fourth W would be the result. And that fourth W was world class. So we put this into every dimension of their culture. Signage. All right. We talked about it at all of their meetings. We did trainings on them. In one quarter, after more than 2 years of not breaking 60 on their patient care scores, they hit 88. The next quarter, they went to 92 and they've never gone back. So when it comes to, imagine what that does to the brand strength. But imagine what that does to the word of mouth about the way people were treated. So when it comes to that brand strength, kindness rocks. So far we've learned on a macro level that if you want to transform your organization, it starts with vision with a KVP. And a KVP is a way to deliver kindness. But here's a bigger question. How do you do that as one little you, as one little me? How does it work on an individual basis? And for that, again, it starts with vision. So I'm going to ask you another vision question. Those of you who read my book, just have some fun. If you haven't read my book, have some fun anyways. All right. I need you to get in the game on this one. All right. So those who have never seen me, I really would love you to answer out loud. So let's see. I'm going to ask another vision question. What color is a yield sign? Now, I've asked that all around the world for years. And I always, every single time hear the same answer, yellow. Well, over 45 years ago, the United States switched to the international signage standards. And every yield sign that every one of you has seen for 45 years is not yellow, it's red and white. It looks exactly like that. How many of you drive? Just let me check on that right now. Yeah. In my team, we don't yield to nobody. All right. Now, here's the part that rocks and how it will really affect you as a kindness catalyst. You have seen thousands of yield signs. You see the same yield signs every day if you drive similar routes every day. In the same way that you see your family every day. The same way you see your team every day. The same way you see yourself every day. The same way you see kindness every day. So you've seen thousands of yield signs, but you haven't seen one of them for what's right smack in front of you. Why? Because the foundational truth about vision that will allow you to become that kindness catalyst explains something incredibly important. And that simple truth is that almost everyone I know, you, me, Ivan, Brandon, my family, your family, almost everyone I know rarely uses their vision to see. We don't use our vision to see. You know what we use instead? We use our memory and our conditioning.
Mhm.
And whenever you use your memory and conditioning to see, you do not see what is. You see what was. And the second you lock onto what was, guess what you block out? What is and what could be. Now, that's well and good for yield signs, and I hope you all join me because I'm the happiest driver I know. Because every time I see a yield sign, I crack up. I'm thinking, what else have I been missing lately? And let me warn you, for the next week or two, every time you drive by a yield sign, it's going to feel like it leaps out of the cement and bats you on the head. Well, where does it matter to you as a kindness catalyst? Where does it matter to you in your career? Where does it matter to you in your presentations, in your family, to no longer depend upon your memory to see? One word, the word that this entire conference is about. People. People. Change the way you look at people. The people you look at change. Change the way you look at kindness. Kindness will change. But most of all, change the way you see yourself. The self you see will change. All right. And so how do you become someone who ignites kindness on a whole new level? Well, it starts by a new vision of the way you see yourself. And here's the simple truth. I've heard somebody use this term already, but it's in my book. I thought I invented it, but I guess I didn't. All right. All right. And so, but it is a valuable one. Not everyone's going to be the CEO of their company. Not everyone's going to be the CFO of their company. But everyone right now in this program, you are officially promoted to the C-suite, because from this moment forward, you are officially the CKO, the Chief Kindness Officer, the CKO, because being a CKO, all right, does not matter what position or title you had before, you can be it immediately. And in the book, The ROI of Kindness, I talk about what I call the 7 habits of highly effective CKOs. All right, we don't have time for 7, so we're going to focus in on 3. But these 3, 2 of them are the most surprising, because the conditioning we have about kindness and the way we deliver it, actually in the first 2, takes a little bit of understanding. And the third is what I call the secret behind the secrets. It's the most important thing that I hope we'll be able to discuss today, and the most vital value and underlying key to being a CKO. In fact, it's so important that without that last one we're going to talk about, there is no kindness. This must be in place for kindness to be real. So the first one, though, I got to ask you a question. How many of you, and you can raise your hand, I can see, how many of you find it far easier, more comfortable to say, give a compliment than to receive one? How many find it a lot easier to give compliments than receive them? Yeah, you can tell people how great they are, but they start telling you, you go, thanks a lot, appreciate it, got to go. Okay, why is that? Why is it so hard for many of us to receive well? Well, one reason is many of us have been raised that we're conditioned that we're supposed to be humble and modest. And if you think about it, what does somebody else's compliment about you have anything to do with being humble and modest? You're not saying it. You're not bragging. All right. But the other reason is the bigger one. So many people, when they're given a compliment, have been conditioned to think, well, if you saw me last Tuesday, you wouldn't be saying this. We think of all the times we didn't measure up. But let me ask you another question, a foundational question. What is receiving? Let me ask you a different question. How many of you love, and I mean love, the feeling that takes over inside of you when you give? How many love the feeling of giving? Would say it's one of the greatest feelings of all. Let me see those hands. Sure. Okay, so in that context, what's receiving? Receiving is allowing other people to feel the joy of giving. Receiving is allowing other people to feel the joy of giving. And make no mistake, when you receive poorly, you snatch that joy away. Please learn this the easy way. I tend to learn things the hard way. In my first career, I was a United States swimming coach. I loved it. I poured my heart into it. My swim team became a huge team where all kinds of cool things happened. I'd probably still be a swim coach, except I had no life. So I'm the only guy who went to graduate school to get a life and not a job. At any rate, the last year that I was a coach, all my senior kids got together for my birthday and secretly, without me knowing it, made up this plan. The first thing they did was every one of them wrote me these beautiful handwritten cards to tell me how much they appreciated me, how much they loved me, how much they knew I cared. Then a few of them made this giant multi-layer cake, and they had to hide it in the weight room behind the pool, which was no easy task because I'm the earliest person in North America. So they had to do it like super early. And finally, they made up this plan that sometime during practice on my birthday, one of my boys was to raise his hand and say, Coach, can we have relays tonight? Now, it didn't matter what my answer was. That was just their cue. Now, I got to tell you, I am not proud of this story because at that time, I did not understand that kindness is connected to receiving. I would not receive. All right. I thought I'm the boss. It goes one direction. I give, they take. That's how it goes. And here's a clue. I knew it was my birthday, but I never tell a soul it was my birthday. And then I feel really bad that nobody knew it was my birthday. So there's a clue. All right. So things are going along through workout. The kids are doing really well. About 45 minutes to go. One of my boys who ended up swimming at University of Hawaii, his name was Joe, raises his hand, says, "Coach, can we have relays tonight?" I go, you are doing so well. You're working so hard. If you do a great job in this next set, then I'll cut practice and we'll do the last 20 minutes of relays. So I'm sending them off on the set. They're going to do 20 100-yard freestyles. That's 4 lengths of a pool in a 25-yard pool on an interval. So I send them off. 1's ready, go. 2's ready, go. They swim down the end of the pool. They get down the end of the pool. They're supposed to do a flip turn and come out the other way. Well, they all swim to the end of the pool, but nobody flips. I got a mutiny on my hands. And they're giggling and they're laughing and they're so excited because they want to give to me. And this is the part that I'm not proud of. I knew it was my birthday. I knew this must have something to do with the fact it was my birthday. This was not normal behavior, but I would not receive. And so before they could get to the locker room to give me this joyous gift of love, I stomped them in the ground. And I said, "What do you think you're doing? Is this the kind of discipline we have on this team? This is just an excuse to get out of practice, isn't it?" 5 seconds before, they could have touched the sky. Now they didn't know where to hide. They stood there crushed, hurt, lost, not knowing whether they should run back in the pool, jump in the pool, or run in the locker room and hope I would go away. And I looked at the devastation that I wrought because I wouldn't receive, because I couldn't be kind enough to receive. And thank goodness I looked. And I had one of my swimmers who, Cecilia, from the moment I met you, reminds me of you. You absolutely remind me of her. You look exactly like each other. I thought you might be her. Her name was Dana. I coached her for 7.5 years, loved her, great kid. And if you've ever had daughters, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you've ever been a daughter, you'll know what I'm talking about. I'm looking at the devastation and I see Dana, and she's got these crocodile tears pouring down her cheeks, doing everything in her human power to keep from making noise while she's sobbing, going, and the tears coming down. And I loved her, and I loved all these kids. And it finally hit me what I was taking away, how unkind I was because I wouldn't receive. So we had the party. I will admit, it really wasn't all that fun by that point. I pretty well killed the atmosphere that day. But I made up my mind that never again would I receive anything from anybody with anything less than thank you. Thank you for your smiles. Thank you for taking time to be here today. So if any of you have any gifts for me, baby, I'm there. All right. Now, why do I say that? Because some of the best potential CKOs I know have not learned the simple truth that one of the secrets to being a CKO is to learn to receive. Because until you learn to receive, you are not a giver. All right. Until you learn to receive, you are not teaching others to give. So the first kind of secret to being a magical CKO is to learn to receive. The second is another one that goes against the grain of conditioning. All right. Because as a CKO, you're in the C-suite, you're a leader. And we've been conditioned that we go to leaders for answers. That's why we go to them. That's why we hire people. We go to them for answers. And there is a time for answers. But I'm going to suggest to you, if you want to be a real leader today, if you want to really connect with the younger generation, if you really want to be a CKO who ignites others to grow and become leaders, then it's far more about questions than it is about answers. In fact, the quality of the questions you ask each other will determine the quality of your team. The quality of the questions you ask yourself will determine the quality of your own life. So the second key to being a true CKO is to ask more than tell. All right, to ask more than tell and do that remarkable thing called listen before you think of what you're going to say next. Now, I want you to think about why is that so important to being a CKO? Well, first of all, when somebody asks you for your feedback, asks you for your input, asks you for your thoughts, asks you what you think, how does that immediately make you feel? Yeah, People, it makes them feel valued. It makes them feel like, hey, they really care about what I think. It makes them feel valued, that they matter, that they count, that they can make a difference. And I'm going to suggest to you that everything we're talking about today, why does kindness build engagement more than anything else? Because kindness helps people feel important. And when people feel important, they rise to, oh, yeah. And when people feel unimportant, they fall to, oh, no. All right. So right away, we know when we ask instead of tell, we create this powerful dynamic where people feel valued. Now, I want you to get how important that is to building leaders. If you're in this world to help others grow to their potential, then you're really about helping people. You're not trying to generate followers, you're trying to generate leaders. And when I was a coach, the last year that I coached, 1 year later, I was in graduate school at UCLA. And in one class, we had to write a weekly paper on our work experience, our previous work experience. And I asked myself what turned out to be a really tough question. I said, if I was such a good coach, now what you need to understand is that when I left coaching, my team was the largest team in America. We had 44 of my kids are in full college scholarships. I won United States Swimming National Coaching Excellence Award. I thought I was a really good coach. A year later, though, I asked that question. If I was such a good coach, what happened to my 15 assistant coaches when I left coaching? What happened to the people that I was supposed to be building as leaders? And it was just like somebody took a giant bucket full of ice water and dumped it on my head. Because 1 year out of coaching, 14 of my 15 assistants were absolutely floundering without me. And I had to figure out, why was that? Simple. I told instead of asked. If 14 of my 15 assistant coaches came up to me and said, Brian, I got this problem. How do you think I should handle it? I'd say, you do this, you do that, you do this, go do it. They couldn't even mess up. I'd cover for them. I never let them coach alone. I'd always be around. But one of my 15 coaches was flourishing in his life and in his career. All right. And he was the least likely one to be a good swimming coach. He was a baseball player. He didn't know jack about swimming, but he had a gift that I saw right away and I wanted to develop. He had the magical gift of making swimming incredibly fun for little kids. And what I wanted for my younger swimmers, I wanted them to love it so that as they developed physically, they wouldn't be burned out. I wanted them to learn technique, which we could teach, but most of all, I wanted them to love it. And he was a big kid himself. His name was Jay. He was just so much fun. And with Jay, I asked instead of told. So if Jay came to me and said, Brian, I got this problem. How do you think I should handle it? I'd say, I don't know, Jay. How do you think you should handle it? And he'd say, I'll do this, do this, do this. That sounds good to me. And I'll let him go do it. I would not show up when he was coaching, let him have the ball completely. All right. 1 year after I left coaching, he was at the top. He had become a top mentor teacher. He coached on the side, top mentor teacher working with children with special needs. A few years ago, we talked on the phone because he retired. And he had an incredible career. He was at the absolute top, in Southern California for working with special needs kids. And we just talked and we're laughing. He was always fun. He goes, Brian, I don't think I ever told you the difference you made in my career. And I go, I don't get that. Why? He says, because you always asked me what I thought. And you let me do it even when you thought there was a better way. You always asked me instead of told me. So you got to ask yourself, as a leader, as someone who is a CKO, do you tell more than ask? If you do, you're creating the pushback. All right. One of the best ways to actually give people the ball, to ask instead of tell, is not actually a verbal question. It's to actually give them the ball to run with. And every year in the rural area, about 75 miles from Seattle, there's been a camp for many, many years that is for 20 special needs children. Very, very disabled children, cerebral palsy, all kinds of challenges. And this week-long camp has a very simple process. For 1 week, all of these children have to do the things that are always done for them. They have to make their own meals. They have to dress themselves. They have to clean up after themselves. And the whole goal of this camp for 1 week is there's more in you than you ever dreamed of. You're not an overachiever. All right, you're special. All right, you're more special than special needs in you. And it's been a terrific camp. And the culmination of this week-long camp is very cool. What they do is they make a big turkey feast. The kids do the whole thing. Turkey dinner, mashed potatoes, stuffing, cranberry sauce, yams, the whole deal. And the culmination is on the very last night, they get to share this meal that they created All right. And so everything was done this one year. There was only one job left. And 19 of the 20 kids were in the dining room that opened into a big, long hallway that went into the kitchen. So you could see from the kitchen to the dining room. Everything was done except one job. All right. And all the kids were waiting. Everything was on the table. And the head counselor grabbed this giant platter full of turkey and he handed it to the child who had been assigned the task of bringing the turkey platter into the dining room. Well, he gave it to the little girl. She was 12 years old. She had cerebral palsy. She was very, very uncoordinated in her movements. And that thing was heavy for her. And immediately when she put it on her, she almost dropped it. And she wiggled, but she knew her job. And she set off walking down that hallway. And after a second, though, the head counselor thought to himself, oh my gosh, that's dinner. She'll never make it. And he started to come up to take it away because he knew who she was. She couldn't do it. And he was just reaching by her. She did not notice him at all because all she was focused on was carrying that platter. Well, right at the last second, he was about to take it away when something caught his eye. Thank goodness. And what caught his eye was all the other 19 children mesmerized, glued to this little girl trying to make it down that hallway. And just as he was to take it away, that sight woke him up about being a CKO, and he let her go. And she wobbled, and she shook, and a couple times she almost lost her balance and fell against the wall. And her arms were shaken with the weight of that platter of turkey. And finally, with everything she had, she set the platter down on the table with this beautiful little smile that wouldn't stop. And all the other 19 children rose up and they gave her a standing ovation. And the head counselor burst into tears. And he thought, what had I almost done? I mean, what's the worst that could have happened? You drop some turkey, you pick it up, you wipe it off. You've done it before. Come on, 5-second rule. What's the best that could happen when you let people carry the platter? That little girl from that point forward saw herself differently. She saw her possibilities instead of her limits. She saw that who she is makes a shining difference. So the second way to be a CKO is to ask more than tell. And sometimes that means just let them carry the ball. Let them carry the turkey platter. All right, the third way is the most important. So right now, everybody sit up on a 10-point energy scale at 9.7. Not 10 because you bounce, it's sort of distracting. Because if I had only a few minutes with you instead of this hour that I've been given, it would be this. Because to me, this is the most important key of all to being a CKO. More importantly, it is the most important key to a beautiful life. It is the most important key to relationship. And without it, there is no kindness. All right. It is not authentic unless this is in place first. So with that kind of build up, it has its own page. And what it says is, this is one of the 7 keys to being a highly effective CKO. Look at all the stuff you're not getting today. All right. And it says, I call it the gift. It says, I am fully present. And I love, Kimberly, that you brought that up at the end of your talk. I am fully present. Now, what does that mean? When you're fully present, 100% of your mind, body, and spirit is with the person you're with where they are now. I'll say it again. When you're fully present, 100% of your mind, body, and spirit is with the person you're with where they are now. Now, how many of you ever been with somebody where you know their body's present, but the rest of them is definitely in another county? Yeah. So here is a tough but important question. Hello, Kate Rander. You're one of the most present people I know. Well, here's an important question. How does it make you feel when someone you wish to be fully present with you is not fully present with you? How does it make you feel when somebody you really want to connect with is obviously much more interested in looking at their Facebook on their cell phone while you're talking than really listening? Yeah. For some people, all right, for some people, it makes them angry, makes them want to grab their head and yank it over. For some, it just makes them sad. But for every human being I've ever known, even the most self-confident individuals, when there's someone we wish to be fully present with us and they're not fully present with us, it makes us feel worthless. It makes us feel insignificant and unimportant. And here's the gig, CKOs. What's your job? Your job description, your job outcome, your goal. It comes down to one thing. Our job through kindness is to help the people that we lead, serve, and love to know they're important, to know they matter, to know they're significant. Again, because when people feel important, they rise to, oh yeah, When people feel insignificant, they fall to okay and eventually to oh no. Now, best thing about being fully present, you can't fake it, can you? How many of you know when you're with somebody if they're fully present or not? Can you tell over the phone? Yeah, being fully present is not a technique. It is a choice. All right. And I want you to know it's a choice that'll rock your life. So I want you to get how this simple decision, because that's what it is, it's a choice, can transform your organization, transform your life, transform you. So in my corporate career, after I left coaching, went to graduate school, eventually I became the vice president and general manager of a very large international training company. And I inherited, when I got that job, I'm put in that role, hired for that role, I inherited a director of operations who had the greatest name ever. All right. Her name is Raffaella Regina Rossi. All right. We call her R3. And Raffaella had incredible energy. However, when I took over as her boss, she hated me. She had incredible ill feelings towards me. And tell you the truth, I was not used to that because I love people. I get along with people. And the reason was I had replaced somebody who Raffaella had been extremely loyal to. And somehow she construed that that was my doing. It really wasn't, but that's the way she took it. Now, we tried to pretend we had a decent working relationship. How effective do you think that was in our team? Everybody knew what was going on. People were coming in as late as they could, leaving as early as they could, walking on eggshells. The tension was horrible. We were floundering, getting nothing done. For a while, I tried the stuff I thought you did to deliver kindness. I gave her compliments. That didn't work. I gave her space. That didn't work. I gave her direction. That didn't work. Finally, I remembered my job, your job, our job. My job was to be fully present. My job was to let Raffaella know that she was important. So I asked her to come in my office one afternoon, and I was dead dirt honest with her. I said, Raffaella, our team is floundering. We're getting nothing done because I haven't been a good enough leader to find a way for you and I to break through. And so I asked you here today to do something that I know at first will sound kind of unorthodox, but I really have a reason. I said, if you will allow me for 10 minutes, I will just listen to you. All right. You got a free pass. You can say whatever you want, however you want to say it. I will not interrupt. I will not argue. I will not defend. I will not ask. I will just listen, not just with my ears, but with every one of my 60 trillion cells. All I ask is at the end of those 10 minutes, when I just listen to you, that you in turn do the same for me. And you just listen to me for 10 minutes. I said, Raffaella, would you try it? And I'll never forget her answer. Raffaella looked at me kind of puzzled and goes, Brian, I don't think I could talk for 10 minutes. I go, Raffaella, we just got to get better. And she wanted it better every bit as much as I did. And finally, she kind of said, well, okay, I'll try. An hour later, she stopped talking. An hour later, she stopped talking. And in that hour, I was true to my word. I just listened. And in that hour, without saying a word, but being fully present, I finally communicated her what I really needed to communicate. In that hour, without me speaking, she realized she had not been fair to me. She realized that if we put our energies together, we'd be pretty unstoppable. Most of all, she reminded herself of how much she loved what we should be doing and could be doing and we're not doing because of our stuff. All right. When we left that room, over the next 6 months, we got more done than we had in the previous 3 years. 1 week after that one-on-one meeting, we created our kindness value proposition. It was, we are champions of empowerment. That's how we delivered kindness. All right. We got more done than we ever dreamed. And more importantly, we had more fun doing it. We moved from ego to we go. People were having fun, innovating, supporting each other. It was awesome. To this day, about 30 years later, Raffaella is still one of my dearest friends, even though she still owes me 10 minutes. I never got my 10 minutes. All right. But in that hour of just listening, I said to her what we only say when we are fully present. And it is the one thing we must communicate, because without it, kindness is fake. All right. When we're fully present and only we're present, we say to that person, you are important. You matter. You count. And when you're not present, you speak louder. So I want to end by encouraging you to start this at home. Please do this with your children. The average American father today spends an average of 9.5 to 10.5 hours per day on a digital or cellular device, and less than 8 minutes a day in actual interaction with his children. We are losing sight of what kindness through presence really does. And so I want to end with a story about the greatest gift I've ever been given from two of my three greatest teachers, who are my daughters, Kelsey and Jenna. And this was when they were 8 and 3 years old. And when they were 8 and 3 years old, we had moved from the big city of Seattle, Washington, to a little mountain town in Montana called Hamilton, Montana. And the reason we moved was so that I would be more fully present as a dad. All right, that I would be there to wake them up and get them ready for school. I'd be there to make them breakfast. I'd be there to help them with their homework, take them to dance. We'd have families dinners together, all together. And I'd be there at night to tuck them in and read them a story and cuddle and let them know how important they are. And the reason that we did that move was because at that time, my speaking career had taken off. I was on the road, either consulting, but mostly speaking about 22 to 24 days a month. And so the idea was, I'm going to move my office in the home. I'll be the dad I want to be. But have you ever known what to do, but you don't do what you know? That was me. And every morning I would go into my office at 4:40 a.m., my office, which incidentally was 2 doors down from my daughter's bedroom they shared with bunk beds, because I was working with all these different time zones. You relate to that, Kimberly, and I had to get in there really early. Well, the next thing you know, I totally missed that window of opportunity to get my kids ready for school. But I was going to be present. Same thing, though, would happen at 3 o'clock when school is over. I'd be on a conference call I couldn't get off of. Those family dinners, they were 3/4 family dinners. They were Carol, Kelsey, and Jenna, because I wouldn't be there. But the most precious of all when your children are little is that time when you tuck them in and you just let them know how beautiful and how precious they are. And I was literally on my way to do that every night when I made a huge mistake. And I walked by my office and I saw sitting on my desk, and this is hard to believe because they weren't portable then. They were on wires. I saw my phone sitting on the desk. And I knew, see, in those days, we didn't really do email yet. We had no social media. Everything was done on the phone. And I knew that in the short time I had run down to get a bite to eat by myself, I would have at least 5, if not 10 voicemails, because I heard the phone ringing while I was trying to eat, go scarf something down. And so I got this thought. I call it an as soon as thought. As soon as thought. The absolute opposite of kindness. And I got this thought. I said, while my kids are brushing their teeth, putting their jammies on, getting ready for tomorrow, I'll just pop in here and knock off a few of these voicemails. Well, you know what happened. Say, Jill, I can see it in your eyes. An hour later, I put the phone down. I had totally missed that precious time. And I remember so many nights walking into their room in the dark, going to the both of them, all right, giving them each a kiss that they didn't know they got. And as I walked out the door, it felt like somebody took their fist and jammed me in the stomach. And I remember thinking to myself, tomorrow, I'll get this right. As soon as I get ahead, I'll get this right. But the next day, the phone was still there, and that went on for days. It turned into weeks. It rolled into months. And then one night, I was literally reaching for the phone when all I can explain is I felt my daughters behind me. I didn't hear them. I didn't see them. I just felt their vibration. I felt their energy. And I turned, and there they were. And when I smiled at them, they ran to me. And Jenna was 3 at the time. And when she was 3, she was like your favorite golden retriever. She like crawls up and like noses your hand out until you pet her. Kelsey was 4. She was like 4 foot tall, 6 pounds. She put her arm around me. They look at me and I go, girls, what are you doing? This is so cool. I love you so much. And they said, Daddy, before we go to sleep, can we just ask you something? And I go, you can ask me anything. And they grabbed my heart and they shook it. And they changed my goal in life and they changed everything. Because they looked at me with that honest, pure truth. And they said, Daddy, we just want to know, do you love your phone more than you love us? Oh, I felt the blade go in deep. Emerson said, what you do screams so loudly, I can't hear a word you're saying. I was living my life as if my phone was a higher priority than my children. I was the ultimate unkindness. Well, I will tell you, I tucked him in that night. And I never missed another night when I was home. The next morning, I was the one who woke him up. I made him breakfast, brought him to school. And I never missed another morning when I was not on the road. And my wife, Carol, was the happiest person in the world because she does not love the morning. All right. That day, when I came home, I made a significant, clear shift in my life. I changed my calendar. From that day forward, I would never do more than 7 events a month. I don't care what you pay me. I wouldn't do it. I never missed one of their dance performances. I never missed one of their daddy and daughter dances. I never missed one of their big school events. And I thought I was doing it for them. Do you know that every dimension of our life transformed with the decision to be more fully present? You don't get less done. You're not less effective being fully present. You get more done. No coincidence. None of my 15 books got completed until my goal shifted to be fully present in every precious woo. So I like to bring this one alive to end this presentation with a poem. It's kind of corny, but I'm corny. So here's what it says. It says, the past is history, the future a mystery. The gift is now. That's why we call it the present. Give me a woo on that one. And I want to end by looking at this last word because it's a key to kindness. And that word is now. You know, I believe one of the greatest gifts we're given every day comes in the form of a road in front of us. And every day, many times, we get to the same Y in that road. One side goes off this way and it says, as soon as. The other says now. To tell you the truth, as soon as looks easier. It's got no ruts. It's got no potholes. It's well lit. It's a piece of cake. Now is scary. It twists. It turns. It's got potholes. Lights are out. But if you keep taking the choice called as soon as, it's a direct road to never. So choose the now. So if you've been focusing on the rock, you can look around it now. If you have been a poor receiver, as I was, you can change it now. All right. If you have been telling more than asking, you can change it now. But most of all, if you want to give a gift, then pick out somebody in your life who for 30 days you are fully present with at a level never before. Do it now. I wish you so much joy. I wish you so much happiness. Thank you for having me here today. Mari-Lyn, thank you so much for making this all possible.
Thank you so much, Brian. That was awesome. You know, it was just another perspective about kindness and how we can be better at being a CKO. So I certainly honor you, and I honor that you are giving us the role of being chief kindness officers. So that's so cool. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody.
So anybody have any questions or anything like that?